And it is the Saturday Coffee Klatch with Heather Lofthouse in our outpost of Los Angeles today. Heather, how are you?
Hello, Bob and Michael. I'm great. I'm here in Los Angeles doing Q&A sessions for the film The Last Class, which is so exciting. So if you're in Los Angeles and want to be in West Los Angeles specifically, come to Landmarks New Art and see The Last Class film about Professor Reich's last semester of teaching.
Well, I was there. I was there last night. And Michael, how are you? What are we going to do? What are we going to talk about
Well,
today?
we've got a lot to cover today, and Heather will revisit more about the last class maybe at the end of the podcast. But obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Texas with the floods, the federal, state, and local response there. And then I think more broadly, we're going to talk about how Trump is reshaping government. You've got a couple things you want to talk about on that.
Oh, yes, yes, indeed. I just want to actually start out saying, because I hear from an awful lot of people, and Michael, I know you do, and Heather, I know you do as well, about how anguished people are.
Yeah.
And I want to validate that degree of anguish and that degree of upset and outrage because it is real. It is what people understandably, appropriately feel.
Yeah.
And the floods, I think, epitomize this in certain ways. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy, and nobody should try to make any political hay out of it. Obviously, I mean, we have not seen a tragedy, a natural disaster on this scale, in the United States for quite some time. But I think it is important to look at the government response.
Yes, definitely. And I think that it's a response that was, obviously it's ongoing, but at the federal, the state, and the local level, there were both complications and missteps. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit more
Well,
today.
I think that the larger frame on this, Michael, is that we need government.
Yeah.
I mean, there is this kind of absurd, right-wing, crazy assumption that, and it was Elon Musk's Doge, and it is Donald Trump, and it is a lot of this kind of libertarian, nutso, crazy approach that we don't need government at all. And obviously, we need government to protect ourselves from not just floods, but from all sorts of hazards, from corporate malfeasance and nonfeasance, from all of the things that we have understood for certainly the past 100 years that we need collectively, to pool our resources to make sure that we are protected. But we weren't. I mean, these people were obviously
Right.
not.
Also, you've heard that Trump said we don't need FEMA anymore as such. We can leave it to the states. I mean,
The Federal
really?
Emergency Management Agency has not been perfect, but the head of FEMA has been completely AWOL. I mean,
Noticeably absent. And
no,
this is
no,
somebody who also said a couple, weeks or months ago that, he didn't even know that there was such a thing as a defined hurricane season,
but
which,
but I mean, if it would be funny if it weren't so utterly awful and tragic.
yeah,
Nobody has been able to find him.
yeah.
My understanding is that
Right. He's not making any statements. He's not on social media. He's not on the
He's
news.
not
I
on
mean, this
site
is
in
what we would
Texas.
need.
I
I mean,
mean,
he's not, but he is literally gone.
yeah.
I mean, this is the quintessence of government not being there for the people. If you don't have the head of the Federal Emergency Management Agency there, and he's not even answering questions, and nobody knows where he is, I mean, what kind of government is this?
And even the response, from his higher up, Secretary Noam, was hampered by a lot of the stuff that we're seeing downstream of Doge. There were these mandates that no contracts over $100,000 could go through without going through her desk and with her signature first,
That's
which
right.
meant,
That was her idea.
yeah,
She wanted to control the costs of all sorts of things, but FEMA especially. And if she's saying everything has got to go through her desk, the eye of a needle, obviously it's not going to get done.
I mean, when you were labor secretary, Bob, that's not something that you ever did, right?
No, I.
I mean, well, I guess just to
No, no,
frame it
no.
for
But
our
it's but
viewers,
it's
right?
but it
Like,
but it, I think there is a very important point here, and cabinet officials have a responsibility to the public directly, and it's not just not to spend money. It is to spend money wisely and appropriately, and do it on time, and do it when it needs to be spent. Heather, you were going to say
And
something.
rapidly. I mean, this is the kind of thing. Let's just put real numbers to this. There are over 120 people who have died. Many are, young girls, young women, and over 170 are still unaccounted for. This is horrific. This is when we need the best of the best, not the missing and the departed and the, I don't know, clueless.
And what does Trump do? He goes out and he visits.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What does he actually do in the visit?
Well, I guess saying that even questioning the emergency response is something that only an evil person would do, according to the press conference he had yesterday, apparently, which is
In
astonishing.
Fact, yes, some member of the press whose job it is to ask the President of the United States questions, hard questions. He says you're an evil person for asking that.
Here with CBS News Texas, several families we've heard from are obviously upset because they say that those warnings, those alerts didn't go out in time, and they also say that people could have been saved. What do you say to those families?
Well, I think everyone did an incredible job under the circumstances. This was, I guess Christie said, a 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000 years. And I just have admiration for the job that everybody did. There was just admiration. Only a bad person would ask a question like that, to be honest with you. I don't know who you are, but only a very evil person would ask a question like that. I think this has been heroism.
You're an evil person for asking a hard question of the President of the United States?
It's just astonishing.
But that's his classic ploy. Look at you over there, you lowly journalist. I mean, he does that. He does the ad hominem attack, and then he moves on.
And I mean, that's not too different from the
it's
response he
rinse and
had
repeat.
to the Jeffrey Epstein story earlier this week when somebody asked him about that. He's like, oh, you're still on that Epstein thing? Come on, just a defensive mechanism over and over again to lash out.
Why do we still listen to him at all? That's what I mean. Why do we give him the honor of calling him the President of the United States? I mean, he doesn't think
Who's
he's the
we,
president.
though?
I'm talking about.
Who's we?
I'm talking
Everyone,
about we
the
as
media?
we collectively in the United States. You and I and Michael. I mean, and we all kind of call him and assume he's the president of the United States. He thinks he's only the president of the people who voted for him.
And he's the king of everybody else.
Yes, and maybe we should just stop calling him Mr. President.
Even Musk has, changed his tune. And we don't even have to talk about him if we don't want to, because I barely see him in the news except when his AI system his grok is being anti-Semitic.
Did you see
and
this,
he's
Bob,
launching
earlier
a
this
party.
week?
I did. I mean, Elon Musk was already in enough hot water. I mean, for him to not only use his own AI system and abuse his own AI system, but use his dominance on X to broadcast filth and bigotry. I mean, when are we all going to get off X? Why doesn't everybody just get off X now, just right now?
Well, and maybe to connect these a little bit, I think that at the end of the day, this is all about wealth and power, right? The only reason we have to listen to either of these people is because of the sheer amount of money that went into the last election and the sheer amount of money that Musk holds and wields and influence as a result of him buying X. And without big money in politics or in the role that Musk has used it, I would certainly hope that I wouldn't have to listen to Elon Musk.
Well, he's talking about starting a third party.
Yeah.
But the third party, he wants to have a third party about reducing the federal debt.
The America Party, right?
The America
Might as well
Party.
call it the Big Money Party.
Well, it is the big money party. If he wants to reduce the federal debt, the best way of doing it is to raise taxes on people like him.
Mm-hmm.
The people, because there's so much money, so much wealth at the top. Raise taxes, have a wealth tax. You want to cut the federal debt down? Do that. But instead, he's talking about what? Cutting more of government programs?
Yeah, I mean, if you could call whatever he's put together a platform, I don't know that there's much there.
Well, I don't think there is. But I mean, you get these people. I mean, the week was filled not only with Kristi Noem and with Elon Musk, but you had the Secretary of HUD, you have the Secretary of Agriculture. Who's
yeah.
the Secretary of Agriculture? Quick.
Brooke Rollins.
Brooke Rollins.
Yes.
Very good, Michael.
Good work.
It's unfortunate
Good work, team.
that I know who she is because she had a real choice quote earlier this week about Medicaid recipients because, and we might throw this clip up actually, but the gist was essentially that there's all kinds of able-bodied people on Medicaid who can go work in the fields.
but we must be strategic in how we are implementing the mass deportation so as not to compromise our food supply. Ultimately, the answer on this is automation, also some reform within the current governing structure. And then also, when you think about, there are 34 million able-bodied adults in our Medicaid program. There are plenty of workers in America, but we just have to make sure we're not compromising today, especially in the context of everything we're thinking about right now. So no amnesty under any circumstances. Mass deportations continue, but in a strategic and intentional way as we move our workforce toward more automation and toward a 100% American workforce.
In other words, if we have a labor shortage,
Yeah.
we should not turn to immigrants. We should, in fact, Trump should not think about possibly giving immigrants in the fields a little bit of a way out of avoiding ICE. We ought to, she says, we ought to have Medicaid recipients in the field.
And the idea that there are 34 million, which is, roughly the amount of people on Medicaid at all, right? Able-bodied people ready to take up these jobs is absurd. I mean, these are people who have jobs, who work already, who have dependents, or who are disabled themselves. It's just ludicrous.
But all of these people who have been appointed and are running in these positions. So we know that Trump is beyond extreme. We know this, but it's amazing to me that first of all, he picks the same people to do multiple jobs. And that, that's fascinating. We could talk about that for a while, but he picks these people who are such fanatics. It almost feels like they're upping the ante, doesn't it? Even more than he would do.
I think they are, Heather. I think that, the conventional view is that the people in the first Trump term tried to contain him, tried to restrain and contain this man. And the problem in the second term, the reason he's so much more extreme, is that the guardrails are gone because the people around him are not containing him. I think that misses something very important.
And what's
the people
that?
around him are egging him on. They are competing for his attention and for his approval. They're more extreme, more radical, less competent even than he is.
But more loyal. So that's the only thing that
They are
matters, right?
enormously loyal, and they'll do whatever he wants. But they also will not constrain him, and they will go out of their way. I mean, think of, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The thing just in 1 week that he does that make the public health really much more vulnerable. He dismisses all sorts of people who have expertise in not only vaccines, but in making sure that communicable diseases are contained. We have a measles outbreak
Yeah.
in Texas and elsewhere.
A disease that was supposed to have been eradicated by this point, essentially.
Well, it basically was eradicated, and then you have
Right.
people like him. This is we're getting back to the theme of protection of the public. We have terrible floods, we have measles outbreaks, we have all kinds of things going on. We have dangerous climate change, and what is Trump doing about it? The big ugly bill got rid of a lot of the subsidies for wind and solar.
Well, and it's not just even the things we just mentioned. Obviously, there's a long list of horrible things we could go through, but I think it's worth mentioning, on all of the immigration news that happened this week. You could point to the videos going viral of ICE agents in different cities in the fields. Obviously, the show of presence, for those who didn't see this, the Border Patrol marching on horseback through an empty park in Los Angeles.
Heather, have you seen any ICE agents in Los Angeles? You are in Los Angeles. We put you in Los Angeles. You went there specifically
I'm on the streets.
to be on the
I'm on the
street.
streets. Well, I mean, this isn't even funny, but no, I haven't. But that's because I'm, walking to a movie theater from a hotel. But it is atrocious what's happening here. But it is incredible how activists have been standing up in MacArthur Park and here in Los Angeles, and what they attempted to do was thwarted.
And I think, to me, that you can see that the public pushback to a lot of these crony and Trump direct policies is growing stronger. We have new numbers just this week from Gallup about immigration specifically. In 2024, we had 55% of the American public, they wanted immigration reduced. It is now just 30% today. And a record...
Wait a minute. Well, let me just make sure I understand that. So in 2024, last year, 55% wanted immigration reduced.
Correct.
We're now down to
30%.
30%.
And additionally, a record high 79% of U.S. adults say immigration is good for the country, including 64% of Republicans.
Okay, now this is important. 64% of Republicans say immigration is good for the country. The Republican Party is not quite getting the message, is it?
No. And I mean, I think this is what you were mentioning.
That's an understatement.
To say the least. But I mean, in terms of how Trump is remaking government, it's this personalist sort of dictatorship where public opinion doesn't matter, Congress doesn't matter, the judiciary doesn't matter unless it's the Supreme Court, signing off on his decrees, essentially, right?
Well, the Supreme Court is signing off on its decrees, but it is government by decree. This is what that keeps on amazing me. Michael and Heather, I don't know if you have ever seen or heard anything like this before, but I can tell you in my 120 years of observing American politics, there has been nothing like this in terms of arbitrary and capricious governance. I mean, putting a tariff on Brazil, that's 50% because he doesn't like what the new president is doing to the former president, Bolsonaro.
They're trying to hold accountable people who tried to coup the government. I think if we say that more explicitly, people who are in Brazil aligned with Trump.
Right, but let's be clear, it hasn't happened in America in the 120 years you've been watching, Bob. But we've seen this kind of dictatorship in other places, but that it's happening on our soil right in front of us. And you mentioned the Supreme Court. What's been the latest this week? What are the latest decrees that they're signing off on? Wasn't there one about federal workers and firing them?
It's interesting, Heather, you use the term decree with regard to the Supreme Court, because on the one hand, you have Donald Trump, who is, issuing these orders, these executive orders, which are essentially decrees. He's not consulting with anybody. They are arbitrary. He's putting a 50% tariff on Brazilian coffee. I mean, can you imagine the cost of coffee? Can you imagine the cost of coffee after that 50% goes into effect?
This is a Coffee Klatch.
It's the Coffee Klatch. The Coffee Klatch ought to really initiate some sort of coffee, Tea Party equivalent of what would happen.
Make a note for that for next week.
Okay, we'll do it next week. But at the same time, you have the Supreme Court, instead of the Supreme Court issuing opinions, which the Supreme Court traditionally has done, it's now using something called the shadow docket, which is analogous to Trump's executive orders. The shadow docket doesn't require any opinions. It doesn't require, it's kind of an emergency procedure. It used to be an emergency procedure, but much of what the court is doing now is shadow docket. So this week on the shadow docket, the court said, okay, it's perfectly fine for Trump to fire huge numbers of federal civil service workers. At least we're not going to issue a preliminary injunction. Now, hello, without any reasoning, without any analysis,
just because they said
without
so.
any facts, without any findings, what is the Supreme Court doing? How can people in this country understand what government is up to if the President of the United States is arbitrary and capricious and doing these kind of executive orders out of his head, really out of nothing, and the Supreme Court, meanwhile, is not even controlling him, but issuing opinions on a shadow docket without any accountability?
Yeah, it's ruled by, a baker's dozen of people, if not less than that, essentially, between 6 conservative Supreme Court justices and Donald Trump, and maybe Stephen Mueller,
Well, that's
throw
right.
him in there too.
And then you have the complete empty-headed zombies in the Republican Party in Congress.
Yeah, and they've almost totally conceded their Article 1 powers as, the legislative branch. I feel like I learned about that in high school at some point, that they're supposed to pass laws and the president is supposed to enforce them, right?
Well, that's right. Well, so let me ask both of you a question. I mean, is this a perfect storm? I mean, in other words, will historians look back on this period and say, you just had this is an accident of terrible accident of history. You've got Republicans who are now in charge of Congress, who are doing anything that Trump wants. You have a Supreme Court that is not exactly a rubber stamp, but basically putting out kind of rubber stamp opinions. And you have a president who we shall not even name as president. You have Donald Trump sitting there in the White House doing whatever he wants to do, watching television and putting out executive orders. I mean, is this a perfect storm, or is there something worse going on?
Can I go first?
Please.
I I mean, we know it's not an accident of history, right? You've written your book that I'm lucky enough to have read before it comes out, coming up short, talks about why it's the case that we have Trump now. So I don't think it's an accident of history, but I do hope that it's a perfect storm. I long for the days when Congress actually legislated. I even remember lobbyists who came out of Congress and then got gigs as lobbyists and then went back to their buddies in Congress. That's not even happening these days.
That's right. In fact, I even long for the good old days when half of the members of Congress who retired became lobbyists because they actually were lobbying their old friends. I mean, I thought it was awful, actually, at the time, but at least you had some accountability. Right now, all the lobbyists are focusing on Trump and the White House.
It's
That's where all the
concentrated groveling instead of distributed groveling.
a concentrated ass kissing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is. And they're paying, clients are paying huge amounts of money to figure out how to get on Trump's good side. Netanyahu this week, what is the Israel lobby doing? Netanyahu says to Trump, well, I'm going to nominate you for a Nobel Prize. And Trump's face lights up. This is what he wants. He's talked about nothing but getting a Nobel Prize because, after all, Barack Obama got a Nobel Prize, so Donald Trump wants to get a Nobel Prize. Well, he doesn't seem to understand, by the way. Can I just say parenthetically that the way to get a Nobel Prize, you don't get a Nobel Prize by lobbying foreign presidents and prime ministers. You get a Nobel Prize because there are 5 people in Norway. They are academics, 5 Norwegian academics who decide who gets the Nobel Prize. And by the way, for Netanyahu, who some people consider a war criminal, to nominate Trump is not going to ingratiate Trump with these 5 academics in Norway. So I wouldn't worry about him.
You think a lot of people were mad that Netanyahu got to it first because he's kind of so high up, and all these lobbyists were probably like trying to build up people who were going to be able to tell Trump, you deserve a Nobel Peace Prize.
I mean, there's only a certain number of things you can do to make him delighted. You can give him a jumbo airplane, that's a palace in the sky.
Sad that still hasn't happened. Where's the delivery? Come on.
And then you can say you're going to try to carve his face on Mount Rushmore. I mean, how many other ways can you massage his ego?
I mean, it's sad, honestly. I think it was really sad. There were a number of foreign dignitaries in Washington this past week, including the president of Senegal, who was complimenting, God bless him. I know he's doing what he has to do as a foreign dignitary in this moment, but he's like, hey, President Trump, your golf game is amazing. By the way, do you want to build a golf course in Senegal? It'd be awesome. Trump was like, oh yeah, it's a place I could show off my skills. Nice. And you're like, that's insane that's something that you're watching the president of the United States do publicly with another foreign leader.
Well, also buying his coins, his tokens and his.
And did you see the Trump phone, the $500 golden Trump phone that's supposedly going to come out?
I mean, we have never seen in this country on this scale this kind of toadying up and this kind of crass, and it is really. It's illegal. It is illegal. The Constitution is very specific. Right. There should be nobody in an office should be able to be taking emoluments and gifts from foreign countries. But it's also inside the United States because all these lobbyists in K Street in Washington who used to be paying, for Congress for elections, and it was bad enough, it was dirty enough, but now they are all turning toward the White House.
And I think,
but I do.
Go ahead, Heather.
I am glad about the Trump-Musk breakup. I still think about that when I'm like, okay, my gratitude list still includes that. One, because he can't put his name all over space and Mars and rocket ships, which I feel like would have made him happy. But it marks the fact that, even when Musk was in DC, it felt like no one was driving the car, right? Everything's just Trump's whims. And it feels like that even more without him. I keep thinking, I know I'm naive, but I keep thinking, are there adults who are going to show up But it's not, right?
Well, I
not
think
gonna
this is a
happen, Bob.
very, very important point. I mean, the question that a lot of people ask me all the time now, what can we do? What can we do? We've actually now tipped over into a monarchy or a dictatorship. Nobody ever thought it would come to this, and certainly nobody thought it would come to this quickly, this fast. What can citizens do? I mean, Heather, you say, where are the adults? Where are the leaders? Well, we are the leaders we've been waiting for, aren't we? I mean, all of us, Americans. I mean, this is supposed to be our country. Don't we
Right.
have any other means by which we can make sure that this man, who I'm not going to call president, is no longer in power?
Well, I mean, I think this is what's maddening to me is I agree with everything you just said, but I also know that, the democratic path to
You mean small d or big
small
D?
d democratic path involves waiting another year, right? And I think a lot of people find it really frustrating that because if we're talking about holding the president directly accountable through the Constitution, right? You need a Congress that's actually willing to impeach him for something, right?
Yes. Well, why can't he be impeached?
Well, because Republicans aren't doing their jobs.
Yes, but if all of us went to every Republican town hall and screamed bloody murder and told and organized like hell in every Republican district and said to these Republicans, if you don't get rid of this person who is pretending to be our president, we are going to make sure you are out of there. And when you and so you've got to impeach him.
Well, it sounds like we're segueing into things people can do.
Yes,
Which is a nice
absolutely.
reminder that people should go to town halls when they're scheduled near them, whether they're Democratic, Independent, or Republican representatives or members of the Senate. That's one big thing. There's also another set of protests coming up July 17th, which is next Thursday.
A Thursday, is that a good day for protest, Michael?
It's tough,
Every day is a good day for a protest.
but I think all the more reason for people to go and seek out other events beyond
Now,
the
the
large
reason
protests.
it's Thursday, it's
Yes.
because John Lewis, the great civil rights leader and hero, he died 5 years ago.
Correct. It's in remembrance
Thursday.
of him.
It's in remembrance of him.
5 years
Yeah.
ago, I forgot.
Which is
that.
why these are called the Good Trouble demonstrations.
The good trouble demonstrations, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that Thursday. It's going to be a week from Thursday.
It's going to be Thursday, July 17th. But actually, I do want to pause on this because this is, a little bit before my time, but I learned about it in school. What does good trouble mean to you? Because I know that's a phrase that was tied to the civil rights movement, but there might be members of our audience that are less familiar with it.
Michael, you are I don't mean to be patronizing, but you are very young. I mean,
Yes.
you seriously don't remember good trouble?
I was a little before my
didn't know
time,
what you
but
were
I
gonna say.
remember watching speeches of Congressman Lewis when, before he passed that were very inspiring when he talked about it. But I was curious, as someone who lived through it, or lived through that era, what does good trouble mean to you?
Michael, you're not helping yourself.
Sorry.
Well, it's true that I'm Methuselah, but good trouble meant that it was a largely a nonviolent civil disobedience. Okay, I mean, it was being willing to be beat up by racist cops, willing to put your life on the line. But again, not violently, because if you do anything violently, you are going to stir up public opinion against you, and you're going to make it look like it's justifiable if the forces come down on you. No, nonviolent civil disobedience. I mean, look at these raids that are occurring in Los Angeles and other places. Well, a lot of Americans, and you referred to this before, Michael, a lot of Americans are saying, no, they're trying to protect the immigrants who are being rounded up and put in detention centers. They are trying to stop the ICE vehicles, the tanks. And I watched just yesterday a video of Americans linking hands, linking arms around one of these ICE tanks. I mean, there's an extraordinary amount of good trouble going on right now.
Yeah. And on that specific point, in terms of things that I'll encourage people maybe to research more about, there's a bill in Congress called the Visible Act, which Senator Alex Padilla, who he himself was detained at Kristi Noem's press conference not too long ago. That would require immigration agents to, well, show their faces and identify themselves.
The fact that we are even talking about, that they have to show their faces and identify themselves, it's absurd. This is like a banana republic. I mean, you can't, if you have official power, the idea that you are going to be permitted to disguise yourself and disguise your identity.
And I mean, just to put a direct point on it, I think the fact that this is stunning even to me, that we can sit here and look on our phones and see, lines, literal like marching lines of masked, unidentified, armed federal agents in camouflage uniforms piling out of unmarked vehicles. It's not America to me.
Well, it's not. It's certainly not America to me either. And I think we've got to stand up, all of us, and say this is not the America we want or deserve, or it's not the America that is our country. This is a different America. We're not going to stand for it.
Yeah. And
I do feel that so many people are rising up. I mean, think about the No Kings protests. So I think right now we're speaking in the future. What can people do? But we have to recognize people are tuning into the Coffee Klatch. They're opening their laptops. They aren't giving up. They aren't giving into cynicism. There are boycotts have been working, right? We've seen them work for Tesla and for Target, and we have to remember all of these tools in our toolkit.
Absolutely.
I think is one of the big lessons right now.
I could not agree more. Heather, you're right. And a lot of the people out there who are watching us now, a lot of you understand how important this is. You are already out there. You are not just protesting, but you are actually protecting the vulnerable. You're protecting immigrants. You're protecting LGBTQ people. You're protecting judges who are being maligned by the Trump regime and are being threatened by Trump vigilantes. You are taking responsibility for this country, and I salute you for it. That's what we're all trying to do. You're not alone.
You're here.
Definitely.
You're here. The other thing is, I know I talked about it, but this movie, The Last Class, that follows you, Bob, on your last semester of teaching, we told you we would make a short video that we put up on YouTube.
It's supposed to be a short video. This is bait and switch, Heather.
The movie's called Bait and Switch.
You
No, it's called The Last Class.
You baited and switched.
And it's had a tremendous amount of people come to the theaters. It's been extended in New York for a third week. It's been extended in Berkeley for a third week. It's going in Los Angeles. All these new theaters are taking it on. And that's because people are showing up. TheLastClassFilm.com is where you can go and see where it's playing, and we're updating it hourly because new theaters are taking it on. But it's so heartening to see community come together and watch a film that reminds us that public education is essential for democracy, and that we can be human beings who are vulnerable and processing and motivating, and that the kids are all right. I mean, this movie shows all these students at UC Berkeley, and it's really heartening. So thank you to those who are showing up for that in theaters and coming together, because that's also important, is coming together in community. And again, so you don't give in to cynicism.
Yes. And relatedly, I'll add, on the website, we've also added a link to the course itself. So after folks, if they've watched the movie, are interested in taking all 14 classes in the course, Wealth and Poverty, and learning about the connection between wealth and power that we were talking about today, it's available online right now for free.
Well, I think that all of this, what we're talking about, is the connection between education and democracy, the connection between activism and education, the connection between activism and democracy. Democracy is not a spectator sport, and education is not a spectator sport. And Heather, let me thank you and the director, Elliot Kirshner, for just your amazing work on this film and your hard work. And that's why you're in Los Angeles. And this kind of work it is education, but it is education in action. And I want to just salute all of you, Michael. Thank you for your help as well. Heather, your help. Jordan Alport, who is our master technician and behind-the-scenes person today. Jordan, thank you for your help. We are all, and you are also, on the front line with regard to making sure that this dictatorship, this fascist, I'm using words that I thought I'd never actually have to use, regime, is constrained. And now, ultimately, it is dependent on us with regard to 2026. But the question I keep asking myself is, between now and 2026, what else can we do? And demonstrating is very important. And boycotting, as we have been talking about, is very, very important. And helping the vulnerable and protecting the vulnerable and engaging in the kind of peaceful, nonviolent civil disobedience that John Lewis was talking about when he said that we need more good trouble is critically important. It is a time now for all of us to rise up, and we are doing it. And thank you, all of you, for doing it. One final note, and Heather has mentioned this and Michael has mentioned this, has to do with not falling into cynicism. If we are cynical, then they win. If we lose hope, they win. If we feel like we are doomed, the country is doomed, there's nothing we can do about it, they win. They want us to fall into cynicism and hopelessness and doom, because if we do, then they win everything. It is our obligation, our responsibility as citizens, it is our duty to take action and constrain what is happening right now. Thank you, all of you, for doing that. And we'll see you next week.